Jones, look at that balance. Here comes the Cardinal blitz. Geno Smith, light spiral, intercepted by Tyler. We're back.
Well, it's Monday night, a new week has begun. I turn on
Saw that coming, and Daskey's coming over after getting that hand hit. And then Shaq Barrett plays, looking at that hand.
The biggest game each week is there.
The touchdown. We saw Philip Lindsay come off the field indicating an issue with his right hand. You can see right there.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? We're ready. Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party. Hey, this is rockin' random, Hank. Ready to get the good time started. We've got the
Okay, welcome back to the week 17 preview now for the week 17 podcast for Are You Ready for a Podcast, the official podcast of Are You Ready for Some Football, Fantasy Football League. Again, we've taken a couple weeks off. We've been, just kind of life's gotten in the way, but we're ready to we're here to recap what's gone on in the playoffs so far and to preview both the DJ and Haney Cup championships. So Parker, how are you doing?
I'm good, Joe. I've recovered from my loss. I was out of that one pretty early. So I'm hanging in there, just watching the action from the couch. No stress this week.
I agree. Yeah, same thing applies to me, just on the other bracket. But so we'll start with you, I guess. We'll do our week one playoff recap, which was only two matchups. So it was you played Dan, and really you just had no shot in this. Jonathan Taylor goes out, and during the Colts' epic collapse, even though he got hurt like very early in the game, like before they even got the big lead against the Vikings.
Yeah, it was the second play, Joe.
So that you needed a huge Jonathan Taylor game, and he played two plays, so didn't really.
If he would have got 72 points, I would have been right in it.
Well, you needed that was just a bad tone setter for your week. Your team then outside of AJ Dillon then just proceeded to underperform across the board. You ran out of gas this season. I think even you would say. I think making the playoffs for you was a nice step forward. You've been in the Haney Cup the last couple of years, so it was nice to get out of that and get some positive momentum for you this season, but to take in the next season. But really, your team just kind of broke down as the season went on, and Dan moved on to the second round.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. People want a reaction pod after this, but it's like, really, to be honest, this is maybe one of the easiest losses I've ever taken. Because I didn't really think I was going to win to begin with, and then my best player got hurt immediately in the first game, which was on Saturday. It wasn't even on Sunday, and then I never had a chance after that. So it was, like it can only hurt so bad when you're just out of it before it even starts. But you're right. Unfortunately, the franchise is at a point where just even making the playoffs is a step in the right direction. As embarrassing as that is to say, I think we had a lot of guys on the roster that were just happy to be there. And that showed. They were excited and not ready to play. They were focused on other things. They thought they had accomplished all their goals already. Dan was a team on a mission, came in and laid down the largest beatdown in playoff history in the league. The largest margin before this was a game in 2020 between you and Colin. And that was 63 points. So by almost 10 points, this was the worst beating in playoff history. So hats off to Dan. His team showed up prepared, and my team did not.
That was the worst playoff loss, or the worst loss since then?
The worst playoff loss of all time.
I thought I lost to Hunter in the playoffs that year.
Yeah, but you beat Colin by.
Oh, I beat Colin the week before. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I thought you phrased it the other way. Yeah. I mean,
no, it was the. Let's see. It was like the 15th biggest loss in league history all time.
Okay. Yeah, it was a real 2009 Hornets Nuggets first round playoff matchup. I don't know, maybe only Hunter will get that reference, but yeah, that was like a 60-point playoff loss by the Hornets that year. So that was kind of the equivalent here. And so we'll move on to Colin and Morgan, who played that same week. And really, Colin got off to a very strong start. He had Josh Allen in that Saturday night game against the Dolphins. Had a huge game. But Morgan was just able to punch back with obviously an epic quarterback performance of his own with Jalen Hurts. Sacrificed his shoulder in the process, and to get Morgan the win, got him 35 points to AJ Brown. Since he traded back for AJ Brown, the AJ Brown Jalen Hurts stack was a killer duo for Morgan. And then so Morgan was just able to storm back against Colin and get a 10-point win, advance to the second round. Just very impressive, a very high scoring matchup here, 137 to 127. And I mean, right when I started to count out Morgan, he starts winning games again, and that is just kind of how this season has gone for him.
Yeah, and that's kind of the postmortem on the season for Colin too. His team was good, put up a lot of points. Did everything he asked of it, and just got beat by the team he was across from that week. He had a lot of high scoring weeks. Really good team this year, and he ends up 8-7 with a first round playoff loss to show for it. So frustrating season for Colin for sure. I think he did a great job of the draft. He got awesome value on his wide receivers. His running backs stayed healthy and were really good, and then Josh Allen just did the rest. And despite all that, Morgan with the big performances, like you said, just knocks him out in the first round. That's just how it goes in fantasy sometimes.
Yeah, you do have to wonder: is he gonna reevaluate anything this offseason? Because that's two straight very successful high scoring regular seasons for him, and then just kind of a flame out in the playoffs. So does he need to adjust some things? Does he need to do the Giannis lost and the back-to-back MVPs, lost early in the playoffs, and then was finally able to come back and win a championship? Is that a situation we have going on with Colin? I think Colin's been a very good manager. Obviously has the 2015 championship to his name, but a couple early couple of back-to-back playoff flameouts after very good regular seasons. So you got to wonder what the locker room is going to be like this off season for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of those teams that just is trying to give himself enough cracks at it. And he's been to the playoffs in now 4 straight seasons. He's been in the championship one of those years. Unfortunately, 2 first-round exits. So I see where you're going with that. We'll see. I don't think you can really say this was a game where he didn't show up. He just got a little bit unlucky here. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know this is time to go overhauling the franchise just yet.
I'm just mad at Colin because in my accidentally unreleased podcast episode that I forgot to send to Parker, playoff preview, I picked Colin to win the championship. So I'm a little bitter towards Colin. But so we'll move on to last week. We'll get to the Haney Cup, I guess, at the end of the recap. But we'll recap the DJ first. So Dan moved on to play Hunter last week. Honestly, Hunter came in as a big favorite, or a pretty hefty favorite, and Dan's team just kind of kept underperforming, but he kind of stuck around because Hunter's team just didn't put him away. Obviously, he's had Justin Jefferson all year, be a stud. Derrick Henry was, had another good game against the Texans, but the rest of Hunter's team just underperformed, and kind of let Dan hang around all the way to the point where Dan just needed 17 out of Godwin on Sunday night against the Cardinals, and almost had it in his clutches. Brady threw up a ball to him late in the game. It was not the best thrown ball, but Godwin got a couple hands on it. Pass was broken up, couldn't come down with it. So that would have won Dan the game, and a big upset of Hunter, but didn't end up happening. Hunter squeezes by, gets through to the championship. We'll get to this in the preview. Might be without his most consistent player, or I guess not most consistent player, most consistent running back this year, or even I don't even know if that's true because Josh Jacobs, one of his best players. We'll get to that, but just impressive performance by Hunter. I was impressed by Hunter. He obviously he's got all the pressure coming onto him in this playoffs, and for him to withstand not the best performance by his team, I was very impressed by his team. And I guess for Dan, I thought Dan really turned things around this year. he was ranked 11th for me. I forgot what he was for you, but he was 11th preseason for me in the rankings. I didn't like his team after the draft, and I mean, he drafted for depth really well, and a lot of his depth pieces hit, and played the waiver wire well, I thought. And good season, just kind of flames out a little early. He ran into the best team in the league. Not a ton you can do about that. So I thought still a pretty good season for Dan, but Hunter's seemingly season of destiny lives on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd stop short of calling this an impressive win for Hunter. I would say this is more of a fortunate break. Dan's roster outside of his quarterback scored 0 touchdowns, and if he would have had even one, he would have won. So, I mean, Hunter obviously did withstand some bad performances from his best players. So from that standpoint, impressive win, but really, kind of the opposite of the Collins situation. Got a little bit of good fortune to come out of this one with the win, and that's what the bye does for you. Because if he would have been playing in that first round, he almost certainly wouldn't have won with a performance like this. But you get into the semifinal, you get one lucky break, and all of a sudden you're in the championship and looking to cement one of the greatest seasons in league history. So good job in the regular season to get the bye, and that paid off here in the playoffs. And then I agree with you for Dan. Good work managing the team this season. Cobbled it together from the start at the running back position, and ended up with really solid running back play all year, with Stevenson and Pollard and Pacheco all being big hits. So good work managing it this year, but unfortunately Hunter, just with the more talented squad, is moving on to the championship.
Yeah, and you got to wonder with Hunter, is the tight end management situation is that on top of its game? If he had just started Tyler Higbee this week, would have rolled to an easy win. Would have been 25-point win as opposed to a 5-point win, so or a 7-point win. So I think Hunter's got a few things to tighten up here going into the championship, and we'll see if he can finally take one home. The other matchup to see who he was facing, another low scoring matchup. All the high scoring matchups this week were in the Haney Cup, but another low scoring matchup between Morgan and Grant. We kind of expected this one to be a little kind of low scoring considering the state of the teams that are in the matchup.
One of the Haney Cup matchups was 75-63, Joe. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but well, I guess not the Haney Cup, but I guess the team's not in the playoffs anymore.
Yeah, that's more accurate.
Yeah, the team's not in the playoffs anyway. But yeah, considering the state of the teams going into this matchup, Morgan's without Deebo Samuel, and he lost Jalen Hurts for this week. We'll see if he'll have him this week. And Grant without Lamar, and Grant's team has just kind of underperformed and has gotten historically lucky this year. And it was under 100 points for both teams. Morgan got just enough from T. Higgins, got just enough kind of across the board from some key guys on his team. Keenan Allen, he needed 13.7, I think, entering Monday night, got 15.9, so barely got the win there. And Grant's team just the run had to come to an end at some point. It would have been maybe the all-time luckiest championship that's ever been won had he'd been able to pull this off with all these sub 100-point performances. Got a nice game from Lenny and from Jared Goff, and outside of that was just not able to get anything else from his team. It really needed a big game from Chubb. Chubb has been his most consistent player and wasn't able to get that in the snow against the Saints. So, I guess for Grant this season, I mean, you can probably go through the luck ratings better, but I think teams were getting more and more frustrated with just how lucky he's been considering how much success he's had in recent years.
Yeah, it was statistically the luckiest season of all time. So you could say he was a little bit fortunate this year. But I think in this one, the story for Grant is that he had his opportunity. Morgan came in without Jalen Hurts, and it was a management decision that cost him. Playing Zonovan Knight was a defensible move at the time, but that was always going to be kind of a low scoring, ugly game with Zach Wilson. And if he benches him and plays Chuba Hubbard or Brian Robinson, he would have won. And if he would have
That's true.
Regard or
Morgan also could have played Jeff Wilson over Marlon Mack.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if Grant would have played literally anyone on his bench, that's got to be a little bit frustrating. And then for Morgan, it's a big win to get a playoff win without Jalen Hurts is huge. That's all he can ask for. And Keenan Allen came up big Monday night. Playing Marlon Mack was more than questionable. It was just stupid. But he made it through with despite that. So
Now, maybe he learned his lesson.
Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. We'll see what happens. But he's in the championship, so I can't sit here on the couch and criticize his management decisions too much. Although that was stupid.
I agree. I think Morgan might need to. I don't know if he is if he has an outside consultant or anything. If he needs to consult that person who shall remain nameless. So we'll move on to the Haney a little bit for before we get to the championship previews here. So the first Haney Cup matchup, me and Nick, really this was never close. My team, once we got eliminated, we just decided to start showing up big time. We blew Nick out of the water in the first round of the Haney Cup. So Nick had advanced to the next round of the Haney Cup. I guess the postmortem on my season would be, just never was able to get things together at the right time. Never was able to find enough depth amongst my starters. I had kind of 4 guys I relied on throughout the year. Quarterbacks were a problem early in the year, kind of figured it out. And then really ultimately the loss to Austin, which was one of the all-time worst fantasy losses, ended up costing me a chance to go to the playoffs. And then, with my last 2 performances the last 2 weeks, who knows where I would be had I made the playoffs. So it's kind of a you situation in years past. You catch these unlucky breaks to miss the playoffs, and then your team blows up in the Haney Cup, and when you've already been eliminated. So I think there's a lot to look at for me going into next year. But Nick moves on to the next round of the Haney Cup. If you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, it was a great performance by your team. Kirk Cousins with a big comeback win really proved he's an elite quarterback. I think, but yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I've been there where your team makes the Haney Cup and just decides that they're going to be good now. I will tell you that what probably would have been more frustrating would have been had you won in the week previous, week 14, to get into the playoffs. You would have been matched up against Morgan, in which case you would have lost by 0.2.
Yeah,
so,
that would have been worse.
So at least that didn't happen. But yeah, not much to analyze from the game. I mean, it was a blowout. It wasn't ever close. Nick's put himself in a really, really dicey position here.
Yeah, but had I beat Austin, would I have been would that have been a different seeding to not play Morgan?
No, you would have played Morgan. You would have been the
all right, well, never mind then. So
you would have been the 3 seed. Morgan would have been the 6 seed.
All right, so never mind. Then I guess I guess I would have either had the unluckiest loss in week 1 or the unluckiest loss in the first round of the playoffs. So I guess I'll take the regular season loss.
Yeah.
The other one was Ben and Austin. Ben comfortably beat Austin 124-102. Really, Ben's team, I think the recap on his season, he just kind of ran out of weeks, as has been the case for him the last couple seasons. Just digs himself in way too big of a hole. And then I ended up really liking his team kind of the second half of the season. I thought it was a very good starting lineup top to bottom. I thought the trade with Colin to get Mahomes, basically anytime anybody's traded for Mahomes, their team has gotten a lot better. And that certainly applied to Ben this year. Austin just didn't really have the performances last week, at least to overcome that. But I was really impressed with Ben's team. Just we'll see if he can string together 14 consistent weeks as opposed to 7 at the last 7 of the year.
Yeah, no, I agree. Great management by him. A good deal to get Mahomes, and Mahomes, might not be enough to get his team in the playoffs, but he's certainly enough to get his team out of the Haney Cup. So good win for Ben, and for Austin. Had a nice performance, but nothing special. So he hung around for another week.
Yeah, and so last week's Haney Cup was it was Zach against Austin. Austin went on to play Zach, blew him out. The Cam Akers 3 touchdown performance was absolutely huge for Austin. And then just double digits across the board for his team outside of his defense, the Broncos defense. But and then Zach, I think we've kind of touched on this a lot this year. He's very top heavy with those top 3 guys, and 2 of the 3 very much underperformed last week, so not enough to get it done. So so Zach moves on to the Haney Cup final. Austin, kind of just recap of his season. I thought, had some highs and some lows. Really good receiver play throughout the year. DK and Tyreek, and Terry had some moments. Brandon Ayuk was good, but just couldn't ever find the running back depth. Even like Kamara wasn't even a very good running back one, and then just his running back twos were pretty bad throughout the year. Thought he had it figured out with Raheem, but then didn't. Tua was pretty good for stretches of the year, but has been injured. So, and then he lost Dallas Goedert. So just I don't know. It was pretty like underwhelming season for Austin, but like wasn't the worst. Wasn't like I don't know. It was just kind of an average, missing the playoffs year.
Yeah, I agree. A little bit disappointing, a little bit of bad luck. I think he has reason to be frustrated with just the way the schedule shook out. But as I've often said, this is why you draft Cam Akers. He can win you a week, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, you were you've always believed in Cam,
for sure.
And then going on to the other matchup, this is kind of the surprise of the Haney Cup. I think we've all been waiting to crown Thomas for him to finally win his namesake trophy, and he is able to avoid it for yet another year. He beat Nick 75-63. I certainly wouldn't say he earned this win or snatched it from Nick. I would say Nick a little more a loss on Nick's part than a big win on Thomas's part. But hey, it all counts for the same, and so Thomas will avoid the Haney, and Nick will move on to the next round. Really, just terrible performance from Justin Herbert, even though they both got single digit performances from their quarterbacks, so close to a wash there. And then just Nick's big guns, just Devontae Adams and Mike Evans, who are his two big receivers, just did not come to play. And Thomas able to get barely enough from I guess a nice Steelers defense performance, barely enough from some of his running backs, Joe Mixon, Jerick McKinnon. 75 points will not win you most weeks, but I guess in the Haney Cup it's very possible. And so a very bad poor performance from Nick, and that will leave him matched up with Zach for the last place finisher in our league.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a big upset. We all thought Thomas would cruise to it, and he just had cobbled it together, found enough. I think Jerick McKinnon was a nice pickup for him. He just picked him up because the week he was playing me, Joe Mixon got a late declare out, and he needed someone to play, and he threw in Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon's, not Joe Mixon, Jerick McKinnon, and Jerick McKinnon's been doing enough. Not a thrilling performance, but at 75 points, got him a win. And for Nick, yeah, his best players let him down big. Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Justin Herbert. A lot of points left out there from those guys. So this is a frustrating loss for sure. He was on the verge of making the playoffs, and now he's pushed to the brink of the Haney Cup. So definitely some frustration from Nick.
Yeah, and we'll get to the DJ championship last. We'll start with the Haney Cup championship or final in our previews here. So it's Zach versus Nick. I still think, kind of looking at this matchup real quick, I still think I'm going to take Nick. I still like his team a little bit more top to bottom. Obviously like Diggs and Dalvin didn't have great games, but neither did Devontae or Mike Evans. I think you can expect to get bounce backs from some of those guys. I like the Zeke matchup in Tennessee on Thursday, and with Tennessee, we'll get to this in the next matchup, probably not having Derrick Henry. I like Dallas to be playing with a lead and Zeke to get a nice workload there. I think Herbert will have a bounce back game. So I think I like Nick to edge out Zach, and I like Zach to get last this year.
This is tough. This is a really close game. I actually think these are two definitely middle of the pack teams. These are not like really bad teams. I don't know I didn't look through all the projections this week, but they're certainly probably in the top half of the league, both of them this week. As far as the projections go, I think I'll pick Nick too. But I'm worried about Justin Herbert. I don't like backing him. I think Zach's team's kind of rallied behind Dak Prescott a little bit last week. Now that he finally has benched Deshaun Watson, we'll see if he cuts him before the game, just to maybe clear him out of the locker room. Things kind of have gone downhill as long as Deshaun's been on the team.
Oh yeah, I was about to say that. That's very
Um,
weird how Zach picked him up and immediately everything went south for him.
Yeah, but for Nick, his best guys have to show up. I think his lineup looks better, but he, Devontae Adams, uh, Justin Herbert, like Ezekiel Elliott, Najee Harris, these guys have got to show up in the playoffs. And so we'll see if they can. If they do, I think Nick's the better team.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. But listen, the funniest outcome would be Nick losing and having to figure out how to move the trophy from all the way from Utah. But sometimes we don't always get what we want. So
That was
I
gonna be
think
my next question. Was gonna be, will you? What's your thoughts on that? Are you gonna help him out and just bring it over to Hunter, or are you gonna wait till somebody comes knocking on your door?
yeah, I'm not just gonna do his dirty work for him. We're gonna need he's gonna need to incentivize me a little bit if that's what's gonna happen.
Okay. So you're thinking like you'll be willing to negotiate a deal.
Yeah, I mean he like the rules are that last place is responsible. So I'm not just going to do it for free. Like that seems pretty ridiculous. If he wants to send somebody to pick it up, that's fine. If he wants to kind of grease the wheels a little bit to get me to bring it over to Hunter, I mean it's a very short drive for me, but then we can talk about that. But yeah, I'm not just gonna up and bring it over to Hunter's.
Okay, I like it. Let him wet the beak a little bit.
Yeah, and then if Zach loses, probably shouldn't be too. Or to wait, we're saying Hunter or to Morgan's. Although Morgan also a very short drive for me. So either one.
Yeah, the trophy's moving about 5 minutes at the most.
Yeah, not even. So that is our championship. It's Hunter versus Morgan. Hunter is a projected, I guess, 19 plus the 2-point, so that's 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hunter, big favorite in this. This is Team of Destiny versus, I don't even know if you would call it peaking at the right time because Morgan didn't have a great week last week and probably does not have his star quarterback this week again. Obviously a huge thing to monitor, which I don't think Derrick Henry is going to play. There's a very weird situation where the week 17 game is really meaningless and the week 18 game is the important one, and Titans Jags for playoff implications. So, and plus the Titans play Thursday night. So I do not expect Derrick Henry to play at all. I think that'll be definitely a blow to Hunter's lineup. He'll have to put in maybe Zach Moss, I guess, with one of the Colts backups here with Jonathan Taylor out. So so he'll probably plug in one of them. Even with that, I think assuming Jalen Hurts doesn't play, I think Hunter's got to be the favorite. Maybe if Jalen Hurts plays, I don't think you can count Morgan out because of how good he's been this year and how much rushing upside he has. But man, it's tough without the star like that, and no Jalen Hurts AJ Brown, with the connection they've had this year. So maybe he just gets a blow up T Higgins game, something like that, with how well the Bengals have been playing. But it just kind of feels like Morgan's run out of gas here a little bit. Obviously, he had the great week 1 of the playoffs, but he's made it this far, and I just think injuries are going to take too much of a toll on him, and Hunter will take home that elusive first championship.
I think I'll probably still stick with Hunter here, but just I was just looking up. Not only is Derrick Henry, as you alluded to, very questionable. Jamal Williams, I did not realize didn't finish the game last week, and we don't have a practice report yet to go on, but I kind of would want to see what happens there, because if he's down Derrick Henry and Jamal Williams, and all of a sudden we're talking about like Zach Moss and Curtis Samuel, so that's a big swing right there. And Aaron Jones is questionable, so a lot to monitor on Hunter's end. Obviously, if all those guys can't play, I think with Kyler already out, it's maybe almost close to a neutral game. But assuming that maybe Henry doesn't go, but the other do, I think Hunter's got to be the favorite here. It's his to lose. It has been all along. I don't think Hurts is playing. So yeah, I pick Hunter. I think Morgan obviously has some interesting lineup choices here. I guess not really because he has to play running back. As I say, because Donovan Peoples-Jones has been a little bit up and down, and Jeff Wilson has been too, but I guess he has to play Jeff Wilson. So not really many interesting lineup choices on Morgan's end or Hunter's end, as long as everyone stays healthy. But yeah, I think Hunter's definitely the favorite. I'll pick Hunter.
Yeah. Again, like we mentioned in the last week's recap, if Hunter's got to manage the tight end situation, picked the wrong one last week. He's got Higbee in there this week. Seems to be a little rejuvenated with Baker as the quarterback. So yeah, I think it is kind of weird because fantasy is just this war of attrition, and both of these, football is kind of a war of attrition, and both of these teams are just kind of coming in not fully healthy. You'd love to see these two teams. I think fully healthy, these are, I think 2 of the top 3 teams in the league. But now they're both kind of limping in, but I think Hunter's obviously been the best team all year, and Morgan has been very impressive at times. So I don't want to say they're undeserving, certainly, of being here, but it would be a lot more exciting if this were a game in the 120s or 130s, as opposed to one team is the underdog is not even projected 100 points as of right now. So we'll see, but I think Hunter will win it, and at the end of the day, he's also got the nice 2-point cushion. Hasn't come into effect in a playoff game, and since Hunter lost to me, I think in the 2018 championship. So maybe it will this year, and it's always nice to have that for Hunter. So yeah,
here's my question, Joe. What does more for Hunter's legacy here, a win or a loss?
Oh, I think it's got to be a loss. It's obviously very nice to get the win, but I don't think he's quite surpassing like me or Grant yet in terms of all-time legacy. Multiple championships, even with your early Bill Russell type of success type of run. But I think a loss, just especially to this state of Morgan's team, like I mean that it's hard. It's gonna be hard to beat the fraud allegations if you're Hunter and you lose this matchup. Like Nick's gonna be dancing on his grave, even if Nick loses the Haney. If Hunter loses, I think there's really, because Hunter's obviously dealt with his like fair share of playoff heartbreakers, but he has never been this big of a favorite in a playoff matchup. At least I don't think he has been. The stars have never seemed to align for him like they are this year, and this would be kind of the ultimate choke job if he wasn't able to get this one done.
Yeah,
like I said, I think for me, Hunter's fraud legacy is on the line. I'm officially on Nick's side if he does not win the championship.
Yeah, I mean Hunter's, this is his fifth championship game performance. The previous 4.
Hey, the Bills went 0-4. They never made a 5th, so maybe that's what it takes.
The previous 4, he lost by 12, lost by 12, lost by 0.3, and then that may have deflated him because in 2020 he lost by 34. So we'll see.
Lost by 0.3 on the 2-point rule, so he really outscored me.
Yeah, so we'll see if he can if he can rally the troops here, or if they're just if he's just never going to do it. I mean, I think if he doesn't win this year, he's never doing it.
I agree. You only get so many cracks of the egg, and this is the ultimate one. Like this is the ultimate opportunity.
Yeah, and then Morgan, of course, had won the championship in 2016 with 67 points.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you gotta love the spot if you're Morgan. No, like you are absolutely playing with house money. He's comfortable being in these games. Like I think this is the ultimate Morgan.
Is he comfortable
spot.
being in these games?
Well, he won one, very low scoring.
Yeah, he won the 2016 championship, and then this is his 3rd playoff game since then.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, he won one that was low scoring.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see what happens. I think it'll be an interesting week to say the least. This is a legacy game here.
Yeah, no, we very rarely does. I mean, I guess last year we had a huge legacy game with Grant. Both me and Grant, I guess, playing for the first team to 3 championships, and really more so Grant to 3-peat would have been pretty historic. But this year is obviously a big one too. Hunter's been an undeniable top 4 team probably in the league, but has not won a championship. Has had a bunch of regular season success, and hasn't been able to turn that to a championship. So,
and then if Morgan wins, that'll be what, 9
for Morgan.
championships split between 4 of us.
Yeah, 2 championships for Morgan. Will be a weird resume considering it. Yeah, like you were saying, he's been in the league the whole existence of it, and has only made it the playoffs 3 times. But won the championship in 2 of those years. So
yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our week 17 recap, or week 16 recap, week 17 preview. I guess we'll try to be on. Actually, we'll try to get on the championship winner next week, and maybe the Haney Cup loser next week if we can coordinate that. Kind of get their emotions on the victory and on the defeat. So yeah, we'll try to get that set up, and we'll be back next week. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for tuning in all year.
This telecast is copyrighted by the NFL for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or of any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the NFL's consent is prohibited.